The massive doors of the Galactic Council chambers opened with a sound like thunder. Every being in the Great Hall turned to look as the Valeth delegation entered. Their footsteps echoed across the polished floor as they walked toward the center of the room. Ambassador Li Dongwu sat quietly in the human section and watched. He had seen many alien species during his 5 years on Nexus Station, but the Valeth were different. They moved like they owned the universe. Their tall bodies were covered in dark armor that seemed to absorb light. Their faces were hidden behind masks that glowed with strange symbols. The leader of the Valeth stopped in the center of the hall. When he spoke, his voice filled every corner of the massive room without any need for speakers or amplification. "I am Supreme Commander Thisakol of the Valeth Empire," he announced. "We have come to bring order to this galaxy." The other alien delegates shifted nervously in their seats. Dongwu noticed how the Kithran ambassador actually moved his chair back several inches. Even the usually bold Zephyrian representative seemed smaller than usual. Thisakol raised one hand. Blue energy began to dance around his fingers. The air itself seemed to bend and twist around the power he was showing. "For too long this galaxy has been weak," he continued. "Species fight among themselves. Planets waste resources on meaningless conflicts. This ends now." One of the other Valeth stepped forward. She was carrying what looked like a simple metal rod. Without warning, she pointed it at a nearby chair and pressed something on its side. A beam of pure white energy shot out and hit the chair. The heavy metal furniture simply vanished. "Not destroyed or melted, gone completely. Our weapons can remove matter from existence," Thisakol explained calmly. "Our shields can stop any attack you might imagine." To prove his point, another Valeth activated a device on his wrist. A shimmering barrier appeared around him. The Kethrin delegate, perhaps trying to show he was not afraid, pulled out his plasma pistol and fired at the shield. The energy blast simply bounced off like water hitting stone. "Our minds are protected by barriers your primitive telepaths cannot penetrate," Thisakol went on, "and we can reach into your thoughts whenever we choose." The Valeth commander turned toward the Menthari section. The Menthari were known across the galaxy for their powerful mental abilities, but when Thisakol simply looked at their ambassador, the poor creature began to shake. Sweat appeared on his blue skin, his large eyes rolled back in his head, and he fell from his chair onto the floor. "This is what happens when inferior minds try to resist us," Thisakol said without emotion. Panic began to spread through the hall. Several smaller delegations got up and started walking toward the exits. The Hectori ambassador was making urgent calls on his communication device. Even some of the more powerful species looked worried. Dongwu remained in his seat and watched everything carefully. He had been chosen as Earth's representative partly because he stayed calm in dangerous situations. His military training had taught him to observe and think before acting. "Each world will now choose," Thisakol announced. "Submit to the Valeth Empire and know peace under our rule, or resist and be removed from existence like that chair." The Kethrin ambassador stood up on shaking legs. What do you want from us?" "Simple tribute," Thisakol replied. 10% of your annual production. Your best minds to serve in our research facilities. Your strongest warriors to fight in our armies. In return, we will protect you from all threats and bring order to your chaotic worlds." "And if we refuse?" asked the brave Zephyrian. Thisakol gestured to another Valeth who activated a holographic display. It showed a beautiful blue and green planet covered with cities and forests. Then the image changed. The same planet appeared again, but now it was nothing but burning rock and ash. "The Kelthane refused to submit last month," Thisakol said simply. "Their planet no longer exists. Their people are gone. Their civilization is forgotten. This is what happens to those who choose unwisely." More delegates left their seats. The Hectori ambassador was already gone. 3 of the smaller species had packed up their materials and were heading for the doors. "What about Earth?" called out the Altarian representative, pointing toward Dongwu. Thisakol turned his masked face toward the human section. Even through the strange mask, Dongwu could feel the alien's attention focusing on him like a spotlight. "Earth," Thisakol said. And somehow the way he spoke the word made it sound like an insult. A primitive backwater world inhabited by violent apes who have barely learned to leave their own planet. "They will serve as an excellent source of manual labor." Dongwu stood up slowly. Every eye in the hall turned toward him. He could feel the weight of hundreds of alien gazes, but his voice remained steady when he spoke. The people of Earth would like to request a formal diplomatic discussion about these terms, he said politely. Laughter filled the hall. Not pleasant laughter, but the cold sound the Valeth made when they found something amusing. Even some of the other alien delegates seemed surprised that the human was still talking. A diplomatic discussion, Thesacol repeated. How quaint. Very well, human. Let me show you what your species is worth. The Valeth commander gestured toward Dongwu. Suddenly the human felt pressure building inside his skull. It was like someone was trying to squeeze his brain with invisible hands. The pain was incredible. But Dongwu had experienced torture during his military service. He knew how to endure pain without showing it. I could crush your mind like an egg, Thesacol said. I could make you forget your own name. I could turn you into a puppet that dances when I pull the strings. The pressure increased. Dongwu felt his knees begin to shake, but he did not fall. He kept his eyes locked on the Valeth commander's mask and refused to look away. Interesting, Thesacol said, and the mental attack stopped. Your species has more resilience than expected. This will make you better workers. Dongwu took a deep breath and straightened his jacket. Is that your final answer regarding diplomatic negotiations? Final answer? Thesacol seemed genuinely puzzled. Human, you seem to misunderstand your situation. We are not negotiating. We are informing you of what will happen. Your planet will be strip-mined for resources. Your people will work in our factories and farms. Your military will be dissolved. Your governments will be replaced by Valeth administrators. I see, Dongwu said calmly. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small communication device. In that case, I need to send a message to my government. By all means, Thesacol said with amusement. Tell them that resistance is futile. Tell them that the Valeth Empire cannot be stopped. Tell them that we are untouchable. Dongwu activated his device and spoke clearly into it. This is Ambassador Li Dongwu reporting from Nexus Station. Diplomatic contact with the Valeth Empire has been attempted and failed. They have declared hostile intent toward Earth and its people. I am officially recommending that we pursue unconventional solutions to this problem. He closed the device and put it back in his pocket. Around the hall, the remaining delegates whispered among themselves. Most seemed to think the human had just signed his planet's death warrant. Unconventional solutions, Thesacol repeated, and the laughter in his voice was clear. What could your primitive species possibly do that we have not already prepared for? We have studied your military. We know your weapons. We understand your tactics. We are ready for anything you might attempt. Dongwu nodded politely. I am sure you are, Commander. Thank you for your time. The human delegate sat back down and began organizing his papers as if nothing unusual had happened. The Valeth stood in the center of the hall for a few more moments, clearly expecting some kind of dramatic response or plea for mercy. When nothing came, Thesacol addressed the entire assembly one final time. You have seen our power. You understand what we are capable of. Each species has exactly 7 standard days to send representatives to our flagship with formal declarations of submission. Those who fail to comply will share the fate of the Kelthane. The Valeth delegation turned and walked out of the hall with the same confident stride they had entered with. As soon as they were gone, chaos erupted. Dozens of species began arguing, crying, and making desperate plans. Through it all, Ambassador Li Dongwu sat quietly in his chair, reviewing his notes and thinking. He knew that back on Earth, some very creative and slightly insane people were about to receive his message. And despite everything he had just witnessed, despite the overwhelming power of the Valeth Empire, Dongwu found himself smiling just a little bit. The Valeth had made one critical mistake. They had assumed that humans would respond to this situation in a logical, predictable way. They clearly had never studied human history very carefully. Ambassador Dongwu's message reached Earth 18 hours after the Valeth made their demands. The response was not what anyone expected. Instead of mobilizing the space fleet or calling emergency meetings with world leaders, Earth's military made a single phone call to a small base in the mountains of South Korea. Commander Park Jin-soo was cleaning his rifle when the call came. He had just returned from a mission that officially never happened in a country that officially did not exist. The phone rang 3 times before he answered it. This is Jin-soo. Commander, this is General Harrison. We need your team for something unusual. Jin-soo almost laughed. Everything his team did was unusual. They were officially called SEAL Team 7, but everyone who knew about them called them by their unofficial name, Honey Badger Team. They got this name because, Like the animal, they never gave up, and they were too stubborn to know when they should be afraid. How unusual, Jinsu asked. Aliens have declared war on Earth. We need you to stop them. Jinsu was quiet for a moment. In his 15 years of military service, he had rescued hostages from impossible situations, destroyed enemy bases that were supposed to be impregnable, and completed missions that sane people would never attempt. But aliens were new. I will need my full team, he said finally. They are already on their way to your location. 2 hours later, Jinsu's team was assembled in the briefing room. They were an unusual group even by military standards. Kim Tae-ho was the explosives expert. He was a thin man with quick hands and a talent for making bombs out of things that were never meant to be bombs. Once, during a mission in Eastern Europe, he had destroyed an entire enemy compound using nothing but fertilizer from a nearby farm and chemicals from a cleaning supply store. Choi Min-ki was the sniper. He was quiet and patient with eyes that seemed to see everything. His longest confirmed kill was over 3 kilometers in weather conditions that should have made the shot impossible. When other snipers said something could not be done, Min-ki usually proved them wrong. Lee So-ra was their technology specialist. She was small and looked harmless, but she could hack into any computer system ever built. She once broke into a secure military network, using nothing but a microwave oven and some spare wire. Her motto was, "If it has electricity, I can make it do what I want." Han Ji-won was the team medic, but she was also trained as a biologist. She could keep someone alive with bullet wounds in places that should be fatal, and she knew more about plants and animals than most university professors. Jinsu always said she was the smartest person he had ever met. Yoon Hyun-soo was their close combat specialist. He was built like a tank and moved like a dancer. No one had ever beaten him in hand-to-hand fighting. He once defeated 6 enemy soldiers in a dark room using only his bare hands and complete silence. So, Tae-ho said as they sat down, "We are fighting aliens now?" "Apparently," Jinsu replied. He activated the wall screen and showed them the recording of what happened at the Galactic Council. They watched in silence as the Valith demonstrated their power and made their threats. "They look tough," Yunsu said when the recording ended. "They have energy shields, mind control powers, and weapons that can make things disappear," So-ra added. "Their ships are protected by technology we do not understand. So how do we fight them?" Min-ki asked. Before Jinsu could answer, the door opened. A woman in a white lab coat walked in carrying a large tablet and looking very excited. She was Dr. Moon Seung-hae, Earth's leading expert on unusual animal behavior. "Commander Park," she said without any introduction. "I have been studying the Valith for the past day. I think I know how to defeat them." Jinsu gestured for her to sit down. "Please explain, Doctor." Dr. Moon activated her tablet and projected images onto the wall screen. "The Valith are very advanced. They have studied human military tactics, our weapons, our psychology, and our technology. They know how we think and how we fight." "That sounds bad for us," Tae-ho said. "Actually, it is perfect," Dr. Moon replied with a smile. "Because they studied the wrong things." She changed the image on the screen. Now it showed various Earth animals: tigers, bears, sharks, and eagles. They studied human warfare, but they never studied Earth's wildlife. They prepared for logical military tactics, but they never considered what would happen if we used completely illogical biological warfare. The next image made everyone in the room stare. It was a honey badger. "This," Dr. Moon said proudly, "is our secret weapon." The room was very quiet for several seconds. "Doctor," Jinsu said carefully, "that is a honey badger." "Exactly. It is small, weighs about 12 kilograms, and has no fear of anything. Honey badgers have been known to fight lions, attack leopards, and steal food from entire packs of hyenas. They are too stubborn to run away and too tough to give up." So-ra leaned forward. "How does this help us fight aliens with energy shields and mind control?" Dr. Moon's smile grew wider. "Because the Valith's mental powers work on intelligent creatures. Honey badgers are intelligent enough to be trained, but too simple-minded to be controlled by telepathy. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons and projectiles, but they were never tested against small animals with very sharp claws." She showed them the next image. It was a honey badger wearing what looked like a tiny spacesuit. "For the past 3 years, we have been working on a secret project. We have bred and trained honey badgers for space operations. They can survive in vacuum, They can navigate in zero gravity and they can be trained to destroy specific types of equipment. Taeho started laughing. You want us to attack an alien spaceship using honey badgers? Not just honey badgers, Dr. Moon corrected. Genetically enhanced honey badgers with cybernetic implants and specialized training. She showed them video footage of the enhanced animals in action. The honey badgers moved through obstacle courses with incredible speed and determination. They tore apart mock alien equipment with systematic efficiency. Most impressive of all, they seemed completely unafraid of anything they encountered. The Valeth have never seen anything like this, Dr. Moon continued. Their computer systems cannot predict the behavior of creatures that do not follow logical patterns. Their weapons are designed to fight armies, not small animals that attack from unexpected angles. Jinsu studied the footage carefully. His team had succeeded in impossible missions before, but this was different. This was not just impossible. It was completely insane. How many honey badgers are we talking about? He asked. 12. Each one is trained for a specific type of mission. Some are specialized for destroying electronics. Others are trained to target life support systems. A few are programmed to cause maximum chaos and confusion. Jiwon spoke up. What about the human element? How do we get onto their ship? Dr. Moon switched to a new set of images showing modified cargo containers. We have developed insertion pods that look like space debris. The Valeth sensors will detect them, but their computers will classify them as harmless junk. Each pod can carry 2 team members and 3 honey badgers. And once we are on the ship? Minky asked. That is where your skills come in, Dr. Moon replied. The honey badgers will create chaos and confusion. While the Valeth are trying to deal with small animals destroying their equipment, you complete the real mission. Which is what, exactly? Jinsu wanted to know. Capture their command center and force them to retreat. Show the galaxy that the untouchable Valeth Empire can be defeated by a small team of humans and some very determined animals. The room was quiet again as the team considered this plan. It was certainly the most unusual mission briefing any of them had ever attended. Commander, Hyun-soo said finally, this is either the most brilliant plan in military history, or the most insane. Maybe both, Jinsu replied. Doctor, when do we meet our new team members? Dr. Moon checked her watch. They are waiting in the next room. Fair warning, they are not like normal military animals. They do not follow typical commands, they do not show fear, and they have very strong personalities. Sounds like they will fit right in with us, Taeho said with a grin. As they prepared to leave the briefing room, Sora had one more question. Doctor, what makes you so confident this will work? Dr. Moon smiled. Because the Valeth made the same mistake that every advanced civilization makes. They assume that intelligence and technology are the most important things in warfare. But sometimes the most effective weapon is not the smartest or the most advanced. Sometimes the best weapon is the one that is too stubborn to quit and too crazy to know when it is beaten. Jinsu nodded. His team specialized in missions that made no sense to logical people. Adding honey badgers to the mix seemed perfectly natural. Gentleman and lady, he said to his team, let us go meet our new partners. Tomorrow we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten Earth. As they walked toward the door, Taeho was still chuckling. Honey badgers in space, he muttered. This is going to be interesting. The Valeth mothership, Eternal Dominion, hung in space above Earth like a dark moon. It was over 10 kilometers long and covered in armor that seemed to absorb light. Smaller ships moved around it like insects around a hive, beginning their resource extraction operations on the planet below. Supreme Commander Thaisukol stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched Earth turn slowly beneath him. The blue and green world looked peaceful and beautiful, but he knew that would change soon. In 3 days, massive mining ships would begin stripping away the planet's crust to reach the valuable minerals. Below, status report, he commanded all. Defensive systems are operating at full capacity, reported his second in command. Psychic detection networks show no hostile thoughts within 50,000 kilometers. Energy shields are at maximum strength. Automated defenses have identified and cataloged every human spacecraft in the system. What about their military response? Minimal. A few obsolete warships have taken position near their moon, but they pose no threat. Their weapons cannot penetrate our shields, and their crude technology is no match for our systems. Thaisukol nodded with satisfaction. This was how it always went. The primitive species made small gestures of defiance before accepting their fate. Soon, Earth's leaders would contact him with offers of surrender. Commander, called the sensor operator. "We are detecting multiple objects approaching from the outer system." "Warships?" "No, sir. They appear to be debris containers, probably jettisoned from one of their cargo vessels." Tysico looked at the display screen. 6 large containers were drifting toward the fleet on ballistic trajectories. They looked like standard cargo modules, but they were clearly damaged and leaking atmosphere. "Are they a threat?" The sensor operator ran a full analysis. "No, sir. They contain no weapons, no energy sources, and no life signs. Just standard space junk. Ignore them. Focus on the planet." The containers continued their slow approach to the Valeth fleet. Inside one of them, Commander Park Jinsu monitored his team's vital signs and checked his equipment one final time. The container was cramped, cold, and filled with the smell of artificial atmosphere, but it was working perfectly. "Sora, status on their sensors?" "They scanned us twice and dismissed us as harmless debris both times." She whispered into her communication device. "Their artificial intelligence systems are very sophisticated, but they are programmed to ignore anything that does not fit their threat parameters." "Minky, can you see the ship?" "Affirmative. I count at least 50 external defense turrets and multiple shield generators. But I also see something interesting." "What?" "Waste disposal ports. They are small and not well defended. The aliens probably never imagined anyone would be desperate enough to use them as entry points." Jinsu almost smiled. In 15 years of special operations, he had entered enemy facilities through sewers, ventilation shafts, garbage chutes, and once through the chimney of a heavily guarded mansion. Alien waste disposal systems were just another day at the office. "Tejo, are our guests ready?" Tejo looked at the 3 honey badgers sharing his container. Each animal was wearing a custom-made spacesuit that made them look like tiny astronauts. They seemed completely unafraid and actually appeared to be enjoying the experience. "They are ready, Commander. Dr. Moon was right about their personalities. I have never seen animals so determined to cause trouble." G1, final medical check. All team members show normal vital signs. The honey badgers are actually calmer than we are. Jinsu activated his communication device and contacted the other containers. "All teams prepare for insertion. Remember, our job is to create enough chaos to get to the command center. Our small friends will handle the distraction." The containers drifted closer to the massive alien ship. Automated systems scanned them again and again, classified them as harmless debris. The Valeth had prepared for every possible human military tactic, but they had never considered that anyone might disguise an assault team as garbage. "Sora, can you access their waste systems?" "Already done. I hacked into their disposal network using the signal from their own sensor scans. Their cybersecurity is excellent against sophisticated attacks, but they never thought to protect their garbage systems." The first container made contact with the ship's hull near a waste disposal port. Mechanical arms extended from the container and began cutting through the alien metal with tools that looked like industrial equipment, but were actually precision military hardware. Inside the Valeth ship, no alarm sounded. The disposal system registered the attachment of a waste container and automatically began the recycling process. As far as the ship's computers were concerned, this was routine maintenance. "We are in," Sora reported, "opening the insertion tubes now." The containers opened like mechanical flowers. Jinsu and his team moved through the narrow tubes and into the alien ship's waste processing areas. It was not glamorous, but it was effective. The honey badgers adapted to the alien environment immediately. Despite being in a completely foreign place with strange smells and unusual gravity, they showed no fear or confusion. They simply waited for their human partners to give them directions. "Hyun-Soo, secure the immediate area." Hyun-Soo moved through the waste processing chamber like a ghost. The room was filled with alien machinery that hummed and clicked with unknown purposes, but it was empty of crew members. He reported back with hand signals, "All clear. Sora, we need access to the ventilation system." Sora pulled out a device that looked like a modified tablet computer and plugged it into what appeared to be a maintenance port. Lines of alien text scrolled across her screen as she worked. Their computer language is mathematical, not linguistic, much easier to decode than human systems. "I have access to their ventilation maps." She showed them a 3-dimensional diagram of the ship's air system. The ventilation shafts were large enough for the honey badgers, but too small for humans in full equipment. "This is where our friends take over," Jinsu said. He knelt down next to the 3 honey badgers in his team. Each animal wore a tiny camera and communication device along with their spacesuits. "Remember your training. he said to them, knowing they could not understand his words but hoping they would understand his tone. Find the important systems and break them. Make lots of noise. Keep the crew distracted. Dr. Moon had spent months training the animals to recognize different types of alien technology based on shape, color, and electromagnetic signatures. The honey badgers could not understand complex instructions, but they knew the difference between important equipment and ordinary machinery. One by one, the animals disappeared into the ventilation shafts. Jinsu watched their progress on Sora's tablet as they moved through the ship's air system like furry missiles with very specific targets. Team 2. Report status. In position near the power generation section, Minki's voice came through the communication device. Our honey badgers are moving toward the primary energy distribution center. Team 3? We have reached the crew quarters area. The animals are heading for life support controls. Jinsu nodded with satisfaction. Phase 1 of their insane plan was working perfectly. Now came the hard part. All teams begin moving toward the command center. Stay in the maintenance areas and avoid contact with crew members until our friends start their show. The team began moving through the ship's service corridors. The Valeth had built an impressive vessel, but like all advanced civilizations, they had forgotten that even the most sophisticated technology needed maintenance access. The humans moved through the ship's hidden passages like phantoms. Then the chaos began. The first alarm sounded when a honey badger named Bruce found the primary computer core. The animal had been trained to recognize the electromagnetic signature of central processing units. When he found what he was looking for, Bruce did what honey badgers do best. He began destroying everything in reach. Sparks flew as sharp claws tore through delicate circuits. Warning lights flashed as critical systems went offline. The ship's artificial intelligence tried to compensate for the damage, but it had never been programmed to deal with small animals attacking from inside the computer system itself. What is happening? Thysicol demanded as his bridge crew scrambled to understand the alarms. Unknown, sir. We are experiencing system failures throughout the ship, but sensors show no sign of attack. A second alarm joined the first as another honey badger found the environmental controls. This animal, nicknamed Chaos by the human team, began systematically destroying the atmospheric processing equipment. Air recycling systems failed. Temperature controls went crazy. Artificial gravity fluctuated randomly. Sir, we have intruders in the life support systems. What kind of intruders? Show me. The main screen displayed a security camera image from the environmental section. Thysicol stared in disbelief as a small, furry creature in a tiny spacesuit tore apart a control panel with single-minded determination. What is that thing? Unknown, sir. It does not match any species in our database. More alarms sounded as the other honey badgers found their targets. Electrical systems failed. Communication networks went offline. Navigation equipment stopped working. Throughout the ship, Valeth crew members ran from section to section trying to understand what was attacking them. Sir, the creatures appeared to be immune to our psychic abilities. Thysicol tried to focus his mental powers on one of the animals. He encountered a mind so simple and single-minded that his telepathic attack simply bounced off. The creature's thoughts were basic and repetitive. Destroy the shiny things, break the important-looking equipment, ignore everything else. They are too primitive for mental control, he realized with growing horror. And too small for our energy weapons to target effectively. Jinsu listened to the chaos spreading through the ship and smiled. All teams move to Phase 2. Our friends are doing their job. Perfectly. The human team began their assault on the command center while the entire ship's crew was distracted by 12 small animals causing impossible amounts of damage. The Valeth had prepared for every logical military tactic. They had never prepared for this. The Eternal Dominion was designed to be the perfect warship. Every system had backup systems. Every possible failure had been planned for and prepared against. The ship's artificial intelligence could handle 1,000 different crisis scenarios automatically, but none of those scenarios included honey. Badger's Bruce had found the main computer core and was systematically destroying everything that looked important. His tiny claws, enhanced with nanocarbon edges, cut through alien circuits like they were made of paper. Sparks flew as critical systems failed one by one. The ship's AI tried to route around the damage, but Bruce had been trained to recognize backup systems too. Every time the computer found a new pathway, the honey badger found it and destroyed it as well. In the environmental section, Chaos was living up to his name. He had torn apart the atmospheric controls and was now working on the artificial gravity generators. The ship lurched as gravity fluctuated between twice normal and zero. Valeth crew members found themselves floating against the ceiling one moment and pressed to the floor the next. Status report, Thesekel demanded, holding onto his command chair as the bridge tilted at impossible angles. Sir, we have lost primary power to decks 7 through 15. Life support is failing in multiple sections. Navigation systems are offline. We cannot identify the source of the attacks. On the security screens, more honey badgers appeared throughout the ship. Each animal moved with single-minded determination toward their assigned targets. They showed no fear of the strange environment, no confusion about the alien technology, and absolutely no interest in anything that was not on their target list. Tank, the largest of the honey badgers, had found the weapons control center. The Valeth technicians in that section tried to stop him, but their energy weapons were designed for large targets. The small animal moved too fast and was too close to the delicate equipment for them to risk firing. One technician tried to grab Tank with his bare hands. That was a mistake. Honey badgers have loose skin that allows them to twist around even when held firmly. Tank spun in the alien's grip and bit down hard on the creature's hand with teeth that could crack bone. The Valeth screamed and let go. Tank immediately returned to his work of destroying the weapons control systems. Within minutes, the ship's primary armament was offline. Sir, we have lost offensive capabilities. How is this possible? Thesekel could not understand what was happening. The most advanced warship in the galaxy was being defeated by creatures that weighed less than his lunch. Dr. Moon had been right about honey badger psychology. The animals were too simple-minded to be affected by psychic attacks and too determined to be discouraged by obstacles. When a honey badger decided to destroy something, it kept trying until it succeeded or died. Since these honey badgers had been genetically enhanced for toughness and endurance, dying was not likely to happen soon. Meanwhile, Jinsu's team was making their way through the ship's maintenance corridors toward the command center. The chaos caused by the honey badgers was providing perfect cover for their movement. Sora, can you access their internal communication systems? Already done. Their security protocols are excellent, but they never secured the maintenance diagnostic networks. I have access to everything. Sora's fingers flew across her modified tablet as she hacked deeper into the ship's systems. She could see the location of every crew member, the status of every system, and the growing panic of the command staff. Commander, I can hear their internal communications. They are completely confused. They keep asking their computer to identify the attackers, but honey badgers are not in their species database. What about ship security? Most of their security teams have been sent to hunt down the animals. The command center is lightly guarded. Jinsu nodded. This was exactly what they had hoped for. The honey badgers were not just causing damage. They were drawing the ship's defenders away from the real target. Minki, report your position. I am in the upper service shafts with a clear view of the command center entrance. 2 guards at the main door, but they look nervous and distracted. Teho, are you ready? My explosives are set on the backup power systems. When you give the word, this ship will be running on emergency power only. G1, status of our biological warfare. G1 smiled as she monitored the ship's atmospheric readings through Sora's connection. The honey badgers are creating more than just mechanical damage. Their presence is introducing Earth bacteria into the ship's air system. The Valeth have no immunity to our microorganisms. Is it dangerous to them? Not immediately fatal, but it is making them sick. Their efficiency is dropping as they're immune. Systems try to cope with completely foreign pathogens. This was an unexpected bonus. Dr. Moon had mentioned that Earth animals might carry bacteria that could affect aliens, but they had not counted on it as part of their plan. Hyunsu, are you in position? Ready to move on the command center. The guards are arguing about whether to abandon their post to help hunt the animals. Jinsu checked his watch. They had been aboard the ship for 37 minutes. In that time, 12 honey badgers had caused more damage than a fleet of human warships could have accomplished. All teams, prepare for final phase. Teho, cut the power in 60 seconds. Acknowledged. Jinsu began counting down. Around the ship, alarms continued to sound as the honey badgers found new systems to destroy. Emergency lights flickered as backup systems failed. The air was filled with the sound of running footsteps as crew members rushed from crisis to crisis. On the bridge, Thesekel was trying to maintain command of a situation that made no sense to him. Sir, the creatures have reached the engine section. This was actually 3 honey badgers working as a team. Ripper, Shredder, and Destroyer had been trained to recognize engine components. They moved through the massive engine room like tiny tornadoes, destroying everything they could reach. Can we vent that section to space? No, sir. The animals are wearing some kind of protective suits. Vacuum exposure will not stop them. What about poison gas? Their suits appear to have independent air supplies. Thysicol was beginning to understand that his ship was being attacked by creatures that had been specifically prepared to operate in space. This was not a random infestation. This was biological warfare. Sir, I am detecting unauthorized access to our computer networks. From where? Unknown. The access is coming through maintenance channels that are not supposed to be connected to primary systems. Sora was now deep inside the ship's computer network. She had access to everything from life support controls to the captain's personal files. More importantly, she could see exactly how the Valeth technology worked. Commander, she whispered into her communicator, I have found something interesting. Their psychic abilities are not natural. They are using technological enhancement. Explain. Each Valeth has a small device implanted in their brain. It amplifies their natural telepathic abilities and provides protection against mental attacks. But the devices are networked together through the ship's computer system. Can you disrupt the network? I can do better than that. I can reprogram it, Jinsu smiled. This mission kept getting better. Do it. Teho, cut power now. The ship's lights went out. Emergency illumination flickered on, casting eerie red shadows throughout the corridors. In the sudden darkness, Jinsu's team moved toward the command center like ghosts. The guards at the command center door were arguing in their alien language when Hyun-Soo appeared behind them. His movements were silent and precise. Both guards were unconscious before they realized they were under attack. Command center secured. Moving to Phase 3. Jinsu and his team entered the bridge of the most advanced warship in the galaxy. The Valeth command crew turned to face them with expressions of shock and disbelief. Impossible, Thysicol said in perfect English. You are primitives. You should not be able to reach this place. Commander Park Jinsu, Earth Special Forces, Jinsu replied politely. We need to discuss your withdrawal from Earth space. Thysicol raised his hand and blue energy began to gather around his fingers. His psychic powers were still functioning despite the chaos throughout his ship. You will surrender immediately, or I will crush your minds. Sora, now would be good. Sora pressed a final command on her tablet. Throughout the ship, the psychic enhancement network that connected all the Valeth crew members suddenly reversed its polarity. Instead of amplifying their telepathic abilities, the devices began broadcasting the ordered brain patterns of honey badgers. The effect was immediate and devastating. Every Valeth on the ship was suddenly flooded with the simple, determined, fearless thoughts of Earth's most stubborn animal. Their sophisticated minds were overwhelmed by the mental equivalent of pure, focused aggression. Thysicol staggered as his psychic powers failed completely. Around him, his command crew fell to their knees, clutching their heads and making sounds of confusion and distress. What have you done to us? Thysicol gasped. We introduced you to the honey badger way of thinking, Jinsu replied. Simple, direct, and completely without fear. Through the ship's communication system, they could hear the continuing sounds of destruction as the actual honey badgers kept working. Alarms wailed as more systems failed. The great warship that had seemed so invincible was being systematically destroyed from within by creatures that weighed less than most people's pets. This is impossible, Thysicol repeated. We are the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. We have technology beyond your understanding. We are untouchable. You studied how to fight an advanced military, Jinsu said calmly. You never learned how to fight a bunch of stubborn animals with a really bad attitude. Minky's voice came through the communication device. Commander, we have company. Multiple Valeth ships are approaching our position. Jinsu looked at Thysicol. I suggest you tell them to maintain their distance. Unless you want them to experience the same hospitality we have shown your flagship. Thysicol stared at the human commander with a mixture of fear and bewilderment. In all his years of conquest, he had never encountered an enemy like this. What do you want? He asked finally. Simple. Withdraw from Earth space immediately. Leave our system and do not return. Find someone else to bully. And if I refuse, Jinsu gestured toward the sounds of continuing destruction coming from throughout the ship. Then we release more honey badgers. We brought a lot of them. This was actually a bluff. They only had 12 honey badgers total. But Thysicol had no way of knowing that. The Valith commander looked around his ruined bridge. Emergency lights cast red shadows on the faces of his defeated crew. The most powerful warship in his fleet had been reduced to a floating wreck by a handful of humans and some very determined animals. "You have won this battle," he said finally, "but we will return with countermeasures." "Good luck with that," Jinsu replied. "Earth has a lot of different animals. Next time we might bring the geese." Supreme Commander Thysicol sat in his command chair and tried to understand how his perfect plan had gone so completely wrong. Around him, his bridge crew struggled to regain control of systems that had been systematically destroyed by creatures that should not have been able to threaten a child, let alone the most advanced warship in the galaxy. The honey badgers were still at work throughout the ship. Their small forms could be seen on security cameras, moving through corridors and ventilation shafts with single-minded determination. Every few minutes, another critical system would fail as the animals found new targets for their destructive attention. "Status report," Thysicol commanded, his voice weaker than usual. "Sir, we have lost 70% of our primary systems. Life support is functioning on emergency power only. Weapons are completely offline. The engine core is stable, but navigation systems are damaged beyond repair. What about our psychic enhancement network? Still compromised, sir. The human infiltrator has somehow reversed the polarity of our mental amplifiers. Instead of enhancing our telepathic abilities, the devices are broadcasting the brain patterns of those creatures." Thysicol could feel the strange thoughts echoing in his mind. They were simple and direct: find target, destroy target, ignore everything else. There was no fear, no doubt, no complex reasoning, just pure, focused determination. "Can we remove the devices?" "The enhancement implants are surgically integrated into our brain tissue, sir. Removing them would require extensive medical procedures that we cannot perform under current conditions." Jinsu stood near the command center's main display screen and watched the Valith fleet through the ship's external cameras. Dozens of alien warships were holding position around the flagship, but they seemed uncertain about what to do. "Sora, can you access their fleet communication system?" "Already done. They are receiving reports from other ships about similar infiltrations. It seems our honey badgers were not the only ones to reach their targets." Jinsu smiled. The plan had worked even better than they had hoped. While the Valith had focused on the obvious threat of the flagship infiltration, 5 other teams had successfully boarded other ships in their fleet. "How many ships are affected?" "At least 6, including 3 major warships and 2 support vessels. The other teams are reporting similar success rates." Dr. Moon's enhanced honey badgers had exceeded all expectations. The animals were not just causing mechanical damage, they were creating a psychological crisis throughout the Valith fleet. "Commander," Minki reported from his position near the bridge entrance, "I am monitoring their internal communications. The crew members are starting to panic. They keep asking their computers to identify the attackers, but honey badgers are not in any of their threat assessment databases." "What about their response teams?" "Most of their security forces have been deployed to hunt the animals, but they are not having much success. The creatures are too small for their energy weapons to target effectively, and too fast for manual capture." Jinsu turned his attention back to Thysicol. The alien commander was still struggling with the honey badger thought patterns flooding his enhanced mind. "You wanted to negotiate," Thysicol said finally. "What are your terms?" "Simple. Immediate withdrawal from Earth space. No return visits, no resource extraction. No tribute demands. Find another galaxy to bully. And in return, we will call off our animals and allow your fleet to leave intact." Thysicol considered this offer while trying to ignore the simple, aggressive thoughts echoing in his head. Around the bridge, his crew members were having similar difficulties. Some were holding their heads in their hands. Others were making soft moaning sounds as they struggled with the alien mental patterns. "You cannot expect us to simply abandon our conquest because of a few small animals. A few small animals that have disabled your flagship and half your fleet," Jinsu pointed out. "Animals that your advanced technology cannot stop or control. This is a temporary setback. We will develop countermeasures." "Maybe, but that will take time. And while you are developing countermeasures for honey badgers, we will be preparing other surprises." Sora looked up from her tablet. "Commander, I am receiving a message from Earth Command. What do they want?" "They are asking if we need backup. Apparently, Dr. Moon has prepared additional biological warfare packages. She mentioned something about wolverines, cassowaries, and Canadian geese. Jinsu saw Thysicle's expression change when the translation systems converted those words into the Velith language. Even aliens recognized that some Earth creatures were best avoided. You have more of these creatures? Thysicle asked. Earth has millions of species that your databases have never cataloged. Jinsu replied truthfully. Some of them make honey badgers look peaceful and reasonable. This was not entirely accurate, but Thysicle had no way of knowing that. The Velith had studied human military capabilities extensively, but they had completely ignored Earth's biological diversity. Sir, the Velith communications officer called out, we are receiving reports from the other affected ships. The creatures have reached their engine rooms. Through the ship's internal cameras, they could see honey badgers working in teams to dismantle critical engine components. The animals moved with mechanical precision, destroying exactly the right systems to disable the ships without causing catastrophic explosions. How do they know which systems to target? Thysicle demanded. They were trained, Jinsu explained. Dr. Moon spent months teaching them to recognize the electromagnetic signatures of critical ship systems. They can identify primary targets, backup systems, and weak points that your own crew might not know about. This is biological warfare of the most sophisticated kind. Actually, it is just good training in natural honey badger stubbornness. The animals do not understand technology any better than they did before. They just know what they are supposed to destroy, and they are too determined to quit until the job is done. Hyunsu's voice came through the communication device. Commander, we have movement in the lower decks. Looks like Velith repair teams trying to fix the damage. Are they having any success? Negative. Every time they repair something, the honey badgers find it and destroy it again. This was the beauty of Dr. Moon's plan. The honey badgers were not just causing initial damage. They were preventing repairs. As long as the animals remained active on the ship, the Velith could not restore their systems. Thysicle, Jinsu said, I'm going to be honest with you. This situation can end in one of two ways. Either you accept our terms and withdraw voluntarily, or we keep our animals active until your ships are completely disabled. And then what? You cannot destroy our entire fleet with small animals. We do not need to destroy your fleet. We just need to disable it long enough for Earth's actual military to arrive. 3 weeks after the Velith withdrawal, Ambassador Lee Dongwu stood before the Galactic Council once again. This time the Great Hall was packed. Representatives from every known species had come to hear about the impossible victory of the primitive humans over the supposedly invincible Velith Empire. The atmosphere was completely different from his last visit. Where before there had been fear and submission, now there was curiosity and something that might have been respect. Alien delegates leaned forward in their seats as Dongwu prepared to address the assembly. Honored representatives, he began. 3 weeks ago, the Velith Empire declared that they were untouchable. They demanded tribute from our worlds and threatened to destroy anyone who refused to submit. Murmurs of agreement came from around the hall. Everyone remembered that day and the terror it had inspired. Today I am here to report that the Velith fleet has withdrawn from Earth space and renounced all claims to our world. The murmurs grew louder. Several delegates stood up to get a better look at the human ambassador, who had somehow achieved the impossible. Many of you have asked how this was accomplished. The answer is simple. We used unconventional solutions to an unconventional problem. The main display screen activated, showing footage from the Velith ship infiltrations. Delegates gasped as they watched small, furry creatures in tiny spacesuits, systematically destroying the most advanced technology in the galaxy. These are honey badgers, Dongwu explained. They are native to Earth and are known for their determination, fearlessness, and complete inability to give up when they have decided to do something. The Altarian representative stood up. Ambassador Dongwu, are you saying that you defeated the Velith Empire using small animals? Not just any small animals, Dongwu corrected. These are honey badgers that have been specially trained and genetically enhanced for space operations. They were deployed by our military alongside human special forces teams. But how could such creatures threaten advanced starships? Dongwu smiled. Because the Velith made the same mistake that many advanced civilizations make. They prepared for logical, predictable threats. They never considered that someone might be desperate enough or creative enough to weaponize Earth's wildlife. The footage continued, showing honey badgers moving through alien ships with mechanical precision. They ignored crew members, avoided obvious traps, and focused entirely on destroying critical systems. The animals were trained to recognize the electromagnetic signatures of important ship components, Dongwu continued. They could identify primary systems, backup systems, and weak points that even the ship's designers might not have considered vulnerable. What about the Valeth's psychic abilities? Asked the Minthari delegate, who was still recovering from his encounter with Thisakol. Honey badgers have simple minds focused on immediate goals. They prove to be immune to telepathic control and intimidation. You cannot frighten a creature that does not understand fear. More footage played, showing Valeth crew members trying unsuccessfully to stop the small invaders. Energy weapons could not target such small, fast-moving creatures without risking damage to their own ship systems. Physical capture was impossible because honey badgers have loose skin that allows them to twist free from almost any grip. The psychological impact was as important as the physical damage, Dongwu noted. The Valeth had never encountered an enemy they could not understand, control, or predict. The honey badgers represented chaos in its purest form. In the audience, several species were taking detailed notes. The Kethrans were particularly interested in the technical aspects of the operation, while the Zephyrians seemed fascinated by the psychological warfare elements. What happened to the Valeth fleet after the infiltration? Asked the Hectori representative. Supreme Commander Thisakol agreed to withdraw all forces from Earth space in exchange for the recall of our biological warfare assets. The honey badgers were safely extracted and the Valeth ships were allowed to leave with minimal additional damage. And they have not returned? According to our monitoring stations, the Valeth fleet has retreated to the outer rim of the galaxy. We have received no further communications from them. The Galactic Council chamber was quiet as delegates absorbed this information. The implications were enormous. If humans could defeat the Valeth using trained animals, what other impossible tactics might they develop? Ambassador Dongwu, said the council speaker, what does Earth intend to do with these biological warfare capabilities? Earth has always preferred peaceful solutions to conflicts, Dongwu replied. However, we will defend ourselves using whatever methods prove necessary. We hope that other species will choose diplomacy over conquest when dealing with our world. What about sharing this technology with other species? Dongwu considered this question carefully. Earth is willing to discuss defensive partnerships with peaceful civilizations. However, we will not provide biological warfare assets to aggressive species or those who might use them for conquest rather than defense. The Altarian representative stood up again. What other Earth creatures might be weaponized in this manner? Earth has millions of species with various capabilities, Dongwu said with a diplomatic smile. Many of them have characteristics that could be useful in different situations. Sora had provided him with Dr. Moon's complete biological warfare inventory before he left for the council meeting. The list was both impressive and terrifying, including creatures that could survive in vacuum, animals that could generate electromagnetic pulses, and species with natural camouflage abilities that would make them invisible to most sensors. For example, he continued, wolverines are larger and more aggressive than honey badgers. Cassowaries can run at high speeds and have natural armor plating, and then there are the Canadian geese. A shiver seemed to run through the assembly at the mention of Canadian geese. Several delegates made notes to research Earth's avian population. But surely, said the Minthari representative, advanced civilizations can develop countermeasures against such primitive tactics. Perhaps, Dongwu agreed, but that assumes they can predict what we might do next. Earth has a talent for creative problem-solving that often surprises more logical species. The truth was that Dr. Moon and her team were already working on new projects. Reports from the research facility mentioned experiments with octopuses for infiltration missions, dolphins for underwater operations, and something called Project Drop Bear that sounded too dangerous to use except in extreme circumstances. The Valeth studied our military for years, Dongwu continued. They knew our weapons, our tactics, and our strategic capabilities, but they never studied our relationship with Earth's other species. That oversight cost them their reputation for invincibility. What message does Earth want to send to the galaxy? Asked the council speaker. Dongwu stood up straighter and addressed the entire assembly. Earth's message is simple. We prefer peace, but we are prepared for war. We will defend ourselves using whatever methods prove effective, no matter how unconventional they might seem to others. And if other species choose to threaten Earth, then they will discover that honey badgers were just the beginning. Earth has many more surprises in store for anyone who mistakes our creativity for weakness. The session concluded with many species requesting formal diplomatic meetings with Earth. Trade agreements, defense partnerships, and cultural exchanges were all being proposed. The galaxy had suddenly become very interested in maintaining good relations with the humans. As Dongwu prepared to leave the council chamber, the Kethrin ambassador approached him. "Ambassador, I must ask, were the honey badgers really as effective as the footage suggests?" "They exceeded all expectations," Dongwu replied truthfully. Commander Park Jinsu reported that the animals seemed to enjoy their work. They showed no fear, no hesitation, and complete dedication to their mission objectives. And they are still under Earth's control? "The honey badgers have returned to their normal lives," Dongwu said with a smile. "Though I understand that Dr. Moon continues to work with them on advanced training programs." "What kind of training?" "I am not privy to all the details, but I believe she is teaching them to operate in different environments." Space-based operations were just the first phase of their development. That evening, Dongwu sent his report back to Earth. The response from his government was immediate and enthusiastic. Earth's status in the galactic community had changed overnight, from ignored backwater to respected power. More importantly, word was spreading throughout the galaxy about what had happened to the Valeth. Other aggressive species were reconsidering their expansion plans. The possibility of facing Earth's biological warfare capabilities was making even the most warlike civilizations think twice about hostile actions. Back on Earth, Dr. Moon was already working on new projects. The success of the Honey Badger program had secured unlimited funding for her research. Her latest proposal involved training programs for ravens, otters, and something she referred to as emergency badger deployment systems. Commander Park Jin-soo and his team had been promoted and assigned to a new special operations unit dedicated to unconventional warfare. Their first assignment was to work with Dr. Moon on expanding Earth's biological defense capabilities. The honey badgers themselves seemed unaware of their galactic fame. They had returned to their normal routines of eating, sleeping, and being generally indifferent to everything around them. But they remained on call for future missions, should Earth ever need their services again. In the outer rim of the galaxy, the Valeth Empire was rebuilding and rethinking their entire approach to conquest. Supreme Commander Tissikol had been demoted after his failure at Earth, but his reports about honey badger warfare were being studied intensively by Valeth strategists. How do we defend against an enemy that does not follow logical patterns? Was the question that kept their military planners awake at night. The answer, as they were beginning to realize, was that you do not fight such an enemy at all. You find other targets that make more sense. 3 months after the honey badger incident, the Galactic Council received a formal communication from the Valeth Empire. It was a diplomatic note expressing their interest in pursuing peaceful trade relationships rather than territorial expansion. The note specifically mentioned that the Valeth had decided to focus their efforts on scientific research and cultural development instead of military conquest. No one believed that the Valeth had suddenly become peaceful, but everyone understood that they had learned to avoid fights they could not predict or control. Ambassador Dongwu read the Valeth communication with satisfaction. Earth had not just won a battle, they had changed the entire dynamic of galactic politics. His final report to Earth Command was brief. Mission accomplished. The galaxy has learned that humanity is not to be underestimated. Recommend continued development of unconventional defense capabilities. The report was approved immediately. Dr. Moon received authorization for 3 new research projects, including one that she described as Project Angry Swan. Earth's relationship with the galaxy would never be the same. They had earned their place as a respected power through creativity, determination, and a willingness to try solutions that no sane civilization would ever consider. And if anyone doubted humanity's resolve, they only had to remember 12 small animals in spacesuits who had brought down the most powerful empire in the galaxy through sheer stubbornness and a complete inability to know when they were supposed to give up. The honey badgers had become legend, and Earth had become untouchable in its own unique way.